When someone raises their voice or attacks your character during a confrontation, their primitive reptilian brain is anticipating only two possible outcomes. Either you explode with anger, or you shrink back in fear. If you do either, you have already lost the war. But there is a third option. An elite non-verbal sequence that short-circuits the attacker's nervous system, instantly reversing the power dynamic without you saying a single word. In the next few minutes, you will discover the hidden mechanics of absolute conversational dominance. Pay close attention, because your social authority depends on it. Every verbal argument is a primitive battle for territory and tribal hierarchy. When someone attacks you, your brain instantly floods your system with adrenaline and cortisol. Your pupils dilate, your jaw tightens, and your heart rate spikes. The manipulator is actively counting on this biological hijack. They want you to match their emotional frequency. If you argue back, you validate their status as an equal threat. If you apologize or withdraw, you accept submission. But a dark psychologist understands a secret law of human biology. Aggression requires feedback to survive. Think of verbal attacks as electrical currents. If you provide a conductor, the current travels and destroys. But if you provide a perfect vacuum, the current loops back and destroys the source. The masters of dark psychology do not defend themselves. They create a conversational void that swallows the attacker's ego whole. Before we reveal the Stoic Void, the exact silent behavioral sequence that causes a manipulator's confidence to shatter in less than 10 seconds, we must first dissect the terrifying psychological phenomenon that occurs when you look at a specific, unprotected zone on their face. When someone is yelling or insulting you, they expect you to look at their eyes, their mouth, or look away entirely. Looking at their eyes signals confrontation. Looking away signals defeat. To execute the void, you must deploy the forehead anchor. The next time someone launches a verbal attack against you, freeze your expression completely. Do not frown, do not sigh, and do not nod. Let your facial muscles go dead calm, like a blank stone wall. Then, drop your gaze slowly away from their eyes and lock it directly onto the center of their forehead, right between their eyebrows. Hold your eyes on that exact spot for a minimum of 5 seconds while they speak. What happens inside their brain during this silence is catastrophic for their ego. The area between the eyebrows is an ancient evolutionary vulnerability zone. When you look there with zero emotional expression, their subconscious mind automatically misinterprets your silence. They stop thinking about their argument. Their brain panics and thinks, "What are they looking at? Do I have something on my face? Do they know a dark secret about me? Have they detected a massive flaw in my positioning?" In less than 5 seconds, their adrenaline switches from anger to deep internal insecurity. Their voice will naturally drop in volume, their sentences will stutter, and their authority will completely collapse. But the forehead anchor is only the paralyzing phase. To completely break their spirit and force them to retreat or apologize, you must follow the silence with a precise 4-word verbal sequence called the Auditory Reset. Let us analyze how a few whispered words can force a shouting manipulator into submission. Once you have paralyzed their momentum using the 5-second forehead anchor, the attacker will usually stop talking, waiting awkwardly for your response. They are desperate for you to break the tension. Do not yell. Do not explain your boundaries. Instead, lower your voice until it is almost a whisper. A lower volume forces their brain to expend energy just to hear you, shifting them from an aggressive state to a listening state. Look back into their eyes and deliver the Auditory Reset. Say exactly these 4 words in a flat, clinical tone. Are you quite finished? Then, go completely silent again. These 4 words are psychologically devastating. Notice what you are doing. You are not addressing their insults. You are not validating their arguments. By asking if they are finished, you are treating their entire emotional explosion as if it were a childish tantrum or an irrelevant interruption. You have just demoted them from a powerful opponent to an undisciplined child in front of everyone. Their ego will experience a massive dopaminergic crash. They will feel an intense wave of social shame. Because your reaction was so clinical and cold, their brain realizes that they have zero control over your emotions. And in the game of psychological warfare, the person who controls their own emotions always controls the room. At this point, 95% of manipulators will back down or try to laugh it off to save face. But what happens if you are dealing with a dangerous, high-spectrum narcissist who refuses to surrender? If they try to launch a second, more vicious wave of verbal attacks, you must deploy the ultimate forbidden tactic: the strategic amused disconnection. A high-level manipulator will sometimes realize you are using a psychological trick. When they see you using silence, they might escalate. They will say things like, "Why are you looking at me like that? Do you think you're better than me? Answer me." They are trying to force a reaction. They want to break your stone wall. To defeat this escalation, you must shift your expression from neutral to slightly amused. Do not smile with your mouth. Instead, let a tiny, subtle smirk form on only one side of your lips, replicated from the asymmetrical contempt smile we discussed before, and slightly tilt your head to the side, as if you are observing a bizarre animal in a zoo. You are no longer a participant in the argument. You are an audience member watching a pathetic comedy show. Look at them, let out a short, quiet breath through your nose, a micro-chuckle, and look away for 1 second before looking back. Say, "Your desperation is showing." This is the nuclear option of verbal defense. Nothing terrifies a dominant personality more than being laughed at or treated as an object of pity rather than fear. By labeling their anger as desperation, you strike a direct blow to their social status. Their brain will experience an absolute system overload of humiliation. They will realize that continuing the argument will only make them look more desperate and ridiculous, forcing them to exit the conversation instantly to protect what is left of their pride. By deploying this sequence, you achieve absolute checkmate in any verbal dispute. But your defense is not yet complete. When a manipulator is publicly silenced, they will never forgive you. They will immediately retreat into the shadows to plan a covert, underground retaliation known as the social sabotage campaign. Let us examine how to predict their next dark move before they even leave the room. When a master manipulator is publicly silenced by your biofeedback shield and the auditory reset, their public ego dies. But do not celebrate yet. A dark psychologist does not accept defeat. They simply change the theater of war. They will transition from direct verbal confrontation to a highly strategic, subterranean retaliation, the social sabotage campaign. They will leave the room with a calm, fake smile, but their brain is already compiling a list of your allies. Within 24 hours, the whisper network begins. They won't tell people that you had an argument. Instead, they will use the inoculation tactic. They will approach your boss, your colleagues, or your friends, and with a voice dripping with synthetic sympathy, they will say, "I'm deeply concerned about them. They had a sudden, terrifying emotional outburst out of nowhere today. I think they are going through a massive personal crisis, and their mental stability is slipping." Look at the surgical precision of this strike. By framing your calm, dominant silence as a terrifying mental breakdown, they completely neutralize your victory. If you try to explain what happened later, people will look at you through the lens of suspicion that the manipulator has already planted. You are fighting an enemy you cannot see, defending yourself against rumors you haven't officially heard. This is where most people panic and make the fatal mistake of confronting the whisperers. But there is a flawless counter-strategy, derived from the espionage protocols of the Cold War, known as the preemptive feedback loop. It allows you to turn their own rumors into a trap that exposes them as a pathological liar to the entire group without you mentioning the rumor itself. To defeat an invisible rumor, you must never defend yourself against it. Defense is an admission of vulnerability. Instead, you must use the preemptive feedback loop. The moment you suspect the manipulator has started whispering behind your back, you must immediately set up a casual, independent meeting with the primary leader of your social or professional group. Do not complain about the manipulator. Do not bring up the argument. Instead, talk about your current high performance, your upcoming goals, and your absolute mental clarity. Say with a highly grounded smile, "I'm feeling incredibly sharp and focused this week. I've noticed some toxic or chaotic energy shifting around the office lately, but my focus is completely locked on our targets." What does this do to the social chessboard? It creates a massive cognitive contradiction in the leader's mind. When the manipulator approaches the leader an hour later to drop their toxic poison about your mental breakdown, the leader's brain will instantly compare the rumor with the raw reality of the calm, high-performing individual they just spoke to. The manipulator's lie will violently crash against the wall of your physical evidence. The leader will not think you are unstable. They will think the manipulator is crazy, obsessed, or maliciously trying to sabotage a top-tier asset. The manipulator's social credit rating will drop to 0 in a single afternoon. By deploying this loop, you cut off their ability to damage your reputation. But a truly desperate predator has one final, highly toxic card left to play. When social sabotage fails, they will launch the fake vulnerability bait. This is a psychological weapon designed to mimic genuine human suffering to force you to lower your shield out of guilt. You have mastered the forehead anchor, you have executed the auditory reset, and your social circle is completely protected by the preemptive loop. The manipulator is isolated, powerless, and bleeding social status. This is when their behavior completely flips. Suddenly, the aggressive, arrogant attacker vanishes. In their place, a broken, fragile victim appears. You might find them sitting alone in a corner with tears in their eyes, or you will receive a long, emotional text message at midnight saying, "I'm sorry for how I acted. My childhood trauma has been destroying me lately, and I feel completely alone in this world. I just needed someone to understand me." Your brain's mirror neurons, the systems responsible for human empathy and tribal bonding, instantly fire. You feel a wave of intense guilt. Your logical mind says, "Maybe I was too cold. Maybe they are genuinely hurting." This is the fake vulnerability bait. In dark psychology, true vulnerability is an asset to be weaponized. A master manipulator does not feel remorse. They feel the loss of control. They are using their own flaws and pain as a hook to bypass your security system. The exact second you reply with comfort or lower your guard, they will catalog your empathy as a weakness. And within 48 hours, the direct manipulation will begin all over again. If you bite the vulnerability bait, you teach the predator that the fastest way to conquer your fortress is to act wounded. But how do you remain a good human being without letting a sociopath abuse your empathy? There is an advanced psychological boundary protocol known as the clinical containment strategy. It allows you to test their sincerity while keeping your shield completely up. To execute clinical containment, you must treat their weaponized vulnerability not with emotional comfort, but with cold, professional redirection. If they text you about their deep trauma or mental suffering, do not say, "Oh no, I'm so sorry, let's talk." That gives them the emotional fuel they crave. Instead, reply with a completely polite, neutral, and distant script. Say exactly this: "That sounds like a profound internal challenge. I highly recommend speaking to a certified mental health professional or a counselor who is trained to navigate those specific issues. I wish you the best on your healing journey." Then, lock the door. Do not answer any follow-up messages. This response is a masterpiece of psychological self-defense. You have not been mean. You have not been cruel. You have offered a perfectly logical solution. But by redirecting them to a professional, you are sending a devastating message to their subconscious. I am not your therapist. I am not your source of emotional validation. Your pain is no longer a currency that can buy access to my life. When the manipulator realizes that even their tears and trauma cannot crack your clinical dome, they will experience total psychological defeat. They will realize that manipulating you is an expensive, exhausting waste of energy that always ends in their own humiliation. They will pack their traps, turn around, and leave your life forever to find an easier target. You have won the war without firing a shot. You have protected your energy. You have claimed your absolute sovereignty. Stay hyper-aware, guard your internal focus, and never let them see you bend.